KDE Plasma is my desktop environment of choice. It's the one I've been using for a while, and so I'm super excited for Plasma 6.5, which should release today or has already released depending on when you watch this and when I get around to editing and publishing it. It is filled to the brim with improvements, big and small, to the entire desktop, the settings, the UI, and so we're gonna take a look at everything new in 6.5, and we're also gonna take a look at this segue to our sponsor, Proton Mail. Now, you probably all have heard about Proton Mail at some point, whether because you're watching this channel or just because you know about any privacy-respecting alternatives to the Googles, Microsofts, or Apples of the world. Proton Mail gives you a zero-access and end-to-end encrypted email account with all the security and privacy bells and whistles you would expect to protect you from spam, from phishing, to easily unsubscribe from unwanted emails or mailing lists, and to triage and store your email as you want it. They've got apps for Linux, for iOS, for Android, you name it. You can just use whatever device you want and everything stays in sync. And of course, when you create your free Proton Mail account, you also get access to some storage space, to a calendar, to contacts, to a VPN, to a password manager. You get an entire suite of services. Now, of course, you can start for free, but they have paid plans that will net you more storage space, more advanced features, faster VPN speeds, and the like. I personally use Proton Mail for all my personal communications, for my calendar, for my contacts, for my storage space online, when I really want to back something up outside of my usual policy. It just replaced my own Nextcloud instance, because it's just easier, it's faster, they've got the apps and the features I want, it just works. So you have a link down in the description to check out Proton Mail. They're really, really fantastic, especially if you want to get away from the Googles, the Microsofts, the Apples, and whatever other privacy invasive services you might find. Okay, so let's begin on Plasma 6.5. So, in terms of the desktop, what you might see is that the window corners are now rounded. This is something that they decided to go with every time a window is themed with the Breeze window theme, the Breeze window decorations. You already had the rounded corners up top, and now you have the rounded corners at the bottom. Not all applications will have those corners. For example, if you open Firefox, you will notice that the corners are square, but if I do decide to use the title bar here, it's gonna be decorated by Breeze, and so you have the little rounded corners. So depending on the toolkit and on the window manager that actually handles the title bar of your windows, you will get those rounded corners or not. And of course, in true KDE fashion, if you do not like these options, you can just modify the Breeze settings and disable the round bottom corner of Windows. So you are now free of that if you want. Now, see, everything is square, and if I turn this back on, everything is rounded. It's a small change, it's fully unobtrusive, it's the small corner radius that KDE uses everywhere, but if you don't like it, at least you can change it. Now, another small usability change is that you can now resize the sidebars in applications that you couldn't resize them. So, for example, in Discover here, you can now resize that, and this sidebar will remember its position between application sessions, which is nice. They also did the same for the System Monitor, where you can also resize that sidebar right there. So, it's just more flexible depending on what you created and if you need more space in there. Now, there is a more impactful change as well in 6.5, which is the handling of the day and night cycle. So first, you can set your location automatically or manually, and you can also set custom times for sunset and sunrise. You might wonder what kind of use this serves, and this is to change themes automatically. So first, if you use a wallpaper that has a night or dark kind of wallpaper style, you get the light version or the night version, and you can automatically use that based on the day and night cycle. So when it's light, you get the light version of that desktop, of that wallpaper, and when it's night, you get the dark version of it. You can also just set it that always use the dark or light variant. You decide exactly what you want to do. It's the same thing for the global themes. If you want to change that, you can also do the exact same thing for those themes. Switch to dark mode at night, and boom, you're done. You've got the light and the dark, and you can configure day and night cycles. Very easy, very simple, and a good improvement, I think, for people who want to use a light mode during the day and a dark mode at night. I personally always default to dark mode now after being a staunch light mode defender during the day, but I just got used to it. I just work in an office where the sun doesn't really hit the window for a long period of time, and so I never have my eyes completely burnt out by the dark mode. If I was in a very lit environment, I would probably use this kind of feature. Now we also have some interesting changes to Krunner, the search tool that you get on the Plasma desktop. First, it now does fuzzy matching. So if you start typing stuff that might not fully relate and is not the exact name or description of an application, it will start showing up some amount of stuff. So for example, if I type install, it's going to show me discover. If I type apps, it's going to show me discover. If I type, I don't know, what else could I do? Programs, it's going to show me discover. So it's what they call fuzzy matching. It just lets you find a bit more stuff. It also starts searching with the first letter that you type, or most of the search plugins will start displaying results starting with the first letter that you type in there. I think previously it was 3 letters that you needed to type to get something. In Krunner settings, you also have an entry to enable global shortcuts, which lets you search for global shortcuts. Not too complicated. So for example, if I type an action, for example, I don't know, let's say screenshots, it's going to give me global shortcut launch without taking a screenshot spectacle. And if a global keyboard shortcut is associated with that, it's going to show it here next to the name of the actual action. Now on the Wayland front, you also have some improvements. If you have a drawing tablet, which is not something that I personally own, you can now use the dials and the touch rings, and you can map and configure those as well, which will be very, very useful for digital artists. You also have support for the picture-in-picture protocol, meaning that applications can actually display those mini windows. They could do so previously, but they weren't always on top. You had, for example, in KDE, you had to right-click them and say, put always on top. Now it's just going to work outright. So, for example, this is how things behave right now, which is basically you can have windows hiding the little pop-out that you made with, for example, Firefox. What you had to do before was to right-click, say more actions, and keep above others. And now it would have stayed on top, which is obviously a lot of extra work for something you want by default with a picture-in-picture. So right now Firefox does not support this protocol, so they will have to implement that themselves, but once they do, KDE will be ready to actually display this on top of all other windows, which is pretty cool. You also now have support for the pointer warp protocol, which is a Wayland protocol that lets an application automatically move the pointer to a specific place on screen if the application is using Wayland. This is mostly going to be useful for video games, I think. There's also support for overlay planes, which, as far as I can understand it, means that you can have a window that is full screen, but still being a window, using a lot less compositing power, maybe not even compositing at all. Again, super useful for video games that you run with a borderless window, but also it apparently means that full screen video will use much less power. So it's an efficiency thing. You're going to use fewer GPU resources, fewer battery to run full screen applications on Wayland, which I think is pretty cool as well. And finally, on Wayland, when you do a screencast of a specific window, which I can't show you here because I'm actually already recording the entire desktop, well, you're going to record the pop-up for those windows as well, where previously only the main window was recorded. So that's pretty cool. Basically finishing up the last touches on Wayland usability issues, and that's cool. Now, among other changes, you have, for example, the clipboard, where you can now star items and find them back again, so you can always use them. They will also display a QR code if you have enough size on this thing. I don't know why it's not like the right size immediately, but it should be. So you can get a QR code and you can copy that QR code automatically for every clipboard element. I think you could already have that QR code, but you didn't have the ability to easily copy it there. So that's fun. I don't personally use the clipboard whatsoever, but for people who do, that's nice. There are also plenty of changes to the sticky note applet, where you can now fully resize this little pop-up, but you can also right-click it to create a new note, and you can actually make that note transparent. So if you decide to pin it over your desktop, you can have a full-on transparent note right on top of everything else, which I think is pretty cool. It's fun. They apparently did a lot of work to make sure that when you use the sticky notes in the panel, it works much better than previously. Now, in terms of accessibility, there are some cool changes to the desktop as well. First, on Wayland, the desktop can now retrieve the position of the text cursor, meaning applications are now able to zoom in right on that cursor if they decide to do so, or at least the zoom feature should be able to do so. You also have changes to the screen reader, now able to detect your caps lock's status and to read it out loud, which is pretty useful as well. They also disabled a key repeat features for multiple keyboard shortcuts, stuff like going to full screen, activating the overview, maximizing, inverting window colors, because this, if you kept those keys pressed, could make the screen flash quite a bit, and so this could cause seizures in people who are sensible to quick image changes. Now, in the release notes, they also stated that they have a full grayscale mode for the color blindness filters, but I couldn't find it in the settings, so I don't know if they kept it in or not. In the release notes, they also list improved text readability, less flickering and screen flashing, and the ability to have a visual effect on screen when something plays audio, so you know that audio has been played. Now you have other smaller changes, for example in the emoji selector, even if your language is not set as English, you can type the name of the English emoji and find it in there, which should make it a little bit easier for everyone. In certain applets, elements that you usually had to unfold to get some options, you can now right-click and access some options without having to automatically completely expand those things, which saves you a click, I guess. In Dolphin, when you access the properties of a folder, the icon that lets you change the folder icon of something is now more prominent and more visible as well. And you'll also get notifications when plugging in new devices and plenty of other smaller usability changes. But the major things are that a global theme and wallpaper change when switching to light or dark mode based on the time of day. That's pretty cool. The new rounded corners, although they won't make a big difference in day-to-day use, but also all the newer Wayland protocols, which will help make KDE an even better citizen for Linux desktops and for Wayland as well. Now, in terms of the system settings, there are some changes as well. First is the application permissions. Previously, this really only handled Flatpak permissions as far as I could tell, but now it handles a bit more. So even the non-Flatpak or non-sandboxed applications will show some basic permissions. For example, here it's the ability to take screenshots and to remote control the desktop through this application. But if you go into a Flatpak application, then you have the ability to send notifications or not, to automatically block the sleep and the screen locking when this app is running, to place high process priority on this app, to take screenshots, and a granularity of permissions that is good, camera access as well, the accuracy of the location the application can pull, if it's able to set the desktop and the lock screen, and also the sessions for screen sharing, which in this case for OBS is pretty important. And you still have a button up top for the Flatpak settings, which gives you all the usual Flatpak permissions and overrides and all that stuff. But by default, the applications will show this, which is what you're looking for initially when you're opening an application. So of course, if it's not a Flatpak, you're not getting as many options, but everything installed as a Flatpak, which I think is just OBS on this system, is a lot more granular and configurable, which is nice. Now you also have a more visible change, which is in the quick settings. You have a few themes up top, but you can select the ones you want to put there. So for example, I can say the ones I want to switch between quickly are Oxygen and maybe Breeze Dark, or the automatic switch depending on the time of day and whether it's dark out or not. This is just a bare bones install of KDE Neon, so obviously I don't have many themes, but if you've installed more through the themes properties and the get new stuff from KDE, then you will have them listed all here, and so you can choose a light variant here and a dark variant there, and switch between the two whenever you want, which is cool as well. Now you also have some other ease of use things. For example, in the Bluetooth settings, you'll notice that you immediately get that little toggle that lets you enable or disable Bluetooth instead of having to go in the page to toggle it on or off. Obviously, you already had this in the little applet if you have that applet on, but this is still pretty cool. You'll also notice that the settings pages that don't really have any use on your specific computer will be hidden by default. For example, I don't have anything for drawing tablets and the like. You can show them back on by enabling this property here. So now I have the drawing tablet, but obviously I don't have a drawing tablet plugged in. So if I disable that, this configuration panel just is removed because it serves no purpose. And this makes the application load a bit faster and it makes it a bit more legible for people. So you'll also see that all the discovered networks, Wi-Fi networks, will now show up in this little panel. Previously, if you wanted to find the automatically discovered networks, you had to go in this little applet there. Now they're already shown in the main settings as well, which makes sense. I don't know why they weren't before. In that page, the Add New Connection pop-up has been modernized just as well, and you can also now add a new type of a VPN, which is using a Fortinet provider. This is new in Plasma 6.5 apparently. And finally, when your printer ink levels are low after you've completed a print job, you'll get a notification telling you, hey, this cartridge is low or this cartridge is completely empty, you need to replace it. So this is, again, ease of use and convenience, which is what Plasma 6.5 seems to be all about. Now, there are a few other changes. Discover is now able to list hardware drivers through PackageKit. This is apparently something that Solus developers worked on. You also have better handling of error messages, better description of what's happening when you're doing an update. They just refined Discover just a little bit, so it's a bit more legible. And applications that have absolutely zero reviews in Discover, well, if you install them, you can now write a review for them. Previously, I think the entire reviews element was not shown at all, so you had no way of writing a review. Now, if you install the application, you'll be able to write one. And another thing that they added is in the Welcome Center. It's a small thing, but they give you a bunch of keyboard shortcuts. They'll tell you about shortcuts using the meta key, and they'll actually show you what that meta key can be depending on your computer. So it can be a Windows logo, a Plasma logo if you bought that, a Linux key, a key called Super, whatever. So that's pretty neat. And they give you a bunch of the shortcuts that you can use with this key as well. That's a small change, but it's nice. So that's it for the major changes in Plasma 6.5. I'm sure I missed a few things here and there because there were a lot of things added to Plasma 6.5 during its development cycle, but those are small changes here and there, but a bunch of those small changes. So the way I tried it is using this, the KDE Slimbook. It's my old laptop that I used for work for a long while. I now use it to test distros. It's running KDE Neon testing. I'm actually recording things with OBS right now on this. It worked really well, no bugs, no problems that I could find, at least not in my short use with it. I'm very excited for Plasma 6.5. I definitely update my computer when I get the chance. Just the added Wayland support and that ease of life, small change in usability, that's what I'm looking for Plasma. I don't need a bunch of new features. All I need is the interface to be smoother, things to be more coherent, and having a little bit an easier time when moving around the desktop, and that's exactly what they're doing, so that's fantastic. And of course, if you want KDE on a dedicated laptop, well, our sponsor can help you with that. They're Tuxedo computers. They make laptops and also desktops that ship with Linux pre-installed. Their own distro, Tuxedo OS, is the one I use on the laptop that I use for everything, which is one of the Tuxedo laptops, and it uses KDE by default. But they also let you install whatever distro you want on that, because obviously the point is to have hardware that is fully compatible with Linux. They have laptops and desktops for every price point, for every need. You can configure a lot of the hardware, the keyboard layout, the logo you want, whatever. They're really, really neat. I only use their devices, so as always, the link is down in the description. Now, thank you all for watching this video. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and I guess you'll see me in the next one after you clicked on all those nice little YouTube buttons, because that's always pretty cool. Like, subscribe, whatever else, those buttons should light up underneath. You know how things work. So, thank you all for watching the video, and I guess you'll see me in the next one. Bye!